Welcome to this week's episode of Maserati Music. I hope you had a chance to enjoy my previous episode and that you felt prompted with great elation to like, subscribe, and say some nice things. I myself was blown away by that talent. I mean, like, wow. Wow. Holy wow. And today, expect no less. Thank you so much, Joey, for being my special guest today.
Hey, how are you guys? I'm glad to be here, be a part of this show, and very excited to share some of my thoughts and some of my walks in life as well as with music.
I have shared the stage with you a million times, and every time it's always high vibes, great times, and what we both describe as nothing less than spiritual. And you were the first person that God put on my path to align me with my destiny. And I'm forever grateful that you just reached out that day and was like, hey, are you a singer? So I never question moments like that. The power of a moment that can truly change the rest of your life. In my last episode, I mentioned my trip to New York City, and that trip literally changed the rest of my life. And meeting you, Joey, changed my life for the better, of course, just to be clear. And I want to be sure that I captured this moment as something very special. And I already love this show because I got to know even more about you, about your journey, how you began, what inspired you. So we'll share that with our audience today. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Joey Torres. So I'm curious, so when did you first get that feeling inside you that you wanted to explore music? And what was your first inspiration?
Music for me, it's always been in me, even as a kid. I think coming from a big family, family of 10, having 7 sisters and 5 of them older than me. And I remember being young and I'd go into one room and they'd be listening to the Beatles. And I'd go into another room with my other sister's room, they'd be listening to Elvis Fitzgerald. And then I would go into another back of the house where they were barbecuing and they were listening to R&B. And then in the front room, my parents had ranchera music on. So that was kind of a common thing that I was just as young. I was around different types of music. So it was always in me. Even as a kid, I remember my sister telling me when she used to take me out for outings, my older sister actually said that she would always have me in the car seat and always would be playing music and singing to me. I don't remember that, but I remember she told me that, and so it was, I think it was just, I was introduced to it at an early age. And so, it got even to the point where I remember as a kid, I knew music really was in me when I was probably maybe 10 years old, 11 years old. And my sisters, 3 of them, the 3 ones were going out to this like mixer. And before they left the house, they're like, okay, you guys, no one go into our room. No one touch our records. You guys just stay away from the room. And we were all watching TV. And then I remember, as soon as they took off, I'd look out the window and I'd see them drive away. And I'd run into the room, I'd close the door, and I'd start putting on the albums. And I would look out the windowsill and I would just be tapping on the windowsill. Didn't know what I was doing, but I just was feeling it. And then I did that for about 45 minutes because I knew they were going to be back in about a half an hour. I'd make sure everything was put back in its place, open up the door, walk back in. And when they walked in, I had my head down watching TV. And so that was kind of my whole thing with even learning to just tap on things and getting introduced to rhythms. And most of that was R&B rhythms. That was rhythms from the Temptations, the Four Tops, the Delphonics, the Dells, stuff like that, that's classic stuff today.
That's awesome. Yeah. And, so it sounds like you were born that way. And then, yeah, and then just all those seeds planted through a family that was loved music in all varieties. That's a real gift. My house had much less variety, and unlike you, I wasn't brave enough to touch the records when I wasn't supposed to, because I got grounded a lot, Joey, you know?
Yeah.
And it also sounds with that experience like you began your acting career. Wasn't me.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. And it doesn't surprise me because, we'll talk more about Joey T and Friends later in the interview, but we cover all kinds of music, and there you are, right into it.
Yeah.
It seems our journeys often contain a point when self-worth or doubt plague our momentum, and it sounds for you like it didn't start that way. Like you had a passion for it, you had a love, you had a desire. So did you ever experience this, and if so, how did you overcome it?
I never thought of playing music professionally. I never thought of that because my goal is just, I love music. I love the rhythms. I've always had it in my mind. Even in school and class, I was just tapping all over the place. So it was never something that I said, oh, I want to be a professional musician or I want to perform. As a matter of fact, I just, that never really crossed my mind at all. And one of the things that, I think I've shared with not very many people, but most of my friends growing up with were black. Most of my friends were black. And so growing up in that era, you couldn't just be good. You had to be great. Your shoes had to be great. Your talk had to be great. Your walk had to be great. You had to be cool, because otherwise you wouldn't fit in with those guys. But one of the things that I was so attracted to that crowd was because they were all into dancing and music. And so if anything, I used to just dance a lot. And you've never seen me do that. But back in the day, I was dancing all the time and singing. But one of the reasons why people say, oh, I never heard you sing, is because I was so brought up with that standard. You couldn't just be good. You had to be a great singer. So the plan for down the road is to get to some voice lessons and start singing probably sometime next year. But yeah, the doubt was always there, because it was just never encouraged to say, yeah, you love music so much, you should go for it. It was never that. It was just something inside me that I kept pursuing. And the more I pursued it, more things started coming my way. So it was a passion. Still is.
So what would your idea of making it be? Because you're out there performing all the time, all over the place. People know who you are, and they welcome you. They know what Joey T and Friends is going to bring to their establishment or their party, their winery. So when you think back to what making it was, and there's that standard that you were working towards, maybe even secretly, or wondering if you would get there. So do you feel like you've reached that, and that you've, what some people might call or consider, making it?
Yeah, I feel like I made it. I do, because I was fortunate to, when I first decided or made the decision of playing, I followed my first teacher. He taught me some lessons, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. This is natural. I've been tapping for years, and I'm good. And after a few lessons, he says, oh, okay, I want to take you to see somebody. And I'm like, all right. So we go to the city. He gets tickets, and I've heard of the person before because I'd heard some of his music. And his name was Mongo Santa Maria. He was actually one of the pioneers to bring the conga drum from Cuba here. So he was like, his stuff is Afro-Cuban music. His stuff is in the Smithsonian. And so I got the front row seat. I'm sitting there young, thinking like, okay, let's see what this dude's got. It only took me 5 minutes watching him, and I felt like I got backhanded. I was like, oh my God, wow. This is watching a master just playing and blending in with the music and not taking so many solos, just a blend. And then over the years, I followed him every time he was out here for 4 or 5 years. And then eventually we became friends, and we talked and we spent time together. And it wasn't that he showed me anything on the drums, but he was more about etiquette. about etiquette playing with people. And one of the things he told me was when we talked was he was a very proud Cuban too. And he was kind of blackballed because he was very vocal about discrimination. He was very vocal about jazz being put to the side. Just a lot of different stuff about what was going on in today, but mainly back in the day when he came to Cuba, from Cuba. But he just said, you know, when you play, the number one thing for you to do is whoever you're playing with, whether it's a vocalist, a guitarist, a pianist, your part of your duty is to emphasize, do whatever you can to enhance the person or the people, the other musicians that you're playing with. So that to me, I saw him do that. I saw him do that for years, and you know, I'm doing it now, and I've been doing it. So as far as how I see it, when I do play, that's how I like playing. I like playing with whoever I'm playing with, kind of taking it off of me and doing whatever I can to make or to enhance what we're doing, where we collaborate. And that's, to me, that's because you could be on charts, or you could be on music charts, and you could be whatever. But I think you get a self-satisfaction when there's that collaboration, because as you know, it doesn't matter who you're playing for or who you're playing with, whether it's 10 people or 1,000 people. If you don't have that feeling inside, at least for me, if you're not jiving, then to me, it's like, it's just commercial. And that's one of the things Mongo told me. Music is not commercial. He says, I've been offered so many different offers to play certain bands, certain places, and I could be a millionaire. But you know what? What I want to stay true to is the music. And that's what I try to continue to do, and I feel like I'm doing it. So in my mind, I've made it in that sense.
Absolutely, and that is what you do. You are completely speaking your truth right now, because when I'm on stage with you, you do everything to lift me up, even during our breaks, just going around the audience and telling everybody, you know, introducing me to everybody. And it's just, you love that network of success for everybody. And the people that we play with are just in that same, it's like you've just attracted those like-minded people. And it's such a pleasure to be on stage with, you know, the guitarist for the evening, and yourself. It's really magical. And I love that. Who likes a wanker on stage?
I don't think those groups really work. I think if you look at all the successful bands, going back to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and you look at also the classic groups, I mean, they collaborate, and that's what it's about. It's collaboration.
When it stopped, they blew up. They dismantled.
Yeah.
Focus just became blurred, and they forgot why they did it in the first place. And I like that focus.
And that's one thing that's magical about playing together. Everybody's spirit as well as their talent gets elevated.
Yes, yes. And that you met Mongo is like as if I met Whitney Houston, and she took me under her wing somehow, and you know, shared all her secrets with me. I mean, that is special. I do feel like we've made it, because we get to do what we love. We do make some money at it, and we have our privacy in our life, you know. So
everything else we do here, Angie, I feel is icing on the cake. So it doesn't matter whether we get on, you know, we do something nationally or globally, you know, it's all icing on the cake, because we really have it made, and we're blessed. Because the other thing that I know, that when we perform, when you see the people walk out, you can just look at them. You can see them before we start playing, but I try to greet everybody when I come in, or people that I know, but then I also try to say goodbye to them. And if you would take a picture of them or footage of them before we started playing, and you take the footage when you see, it's a different look on their face. Their faces look different. You can feel their spirits are different. So that right there is making it to me.
Yes, and Oprah says that of all the thousands of interviews she's had, she's interviewed, I mean, it's like some crazy number of people. Yeah. And no matter how big they were, or what somebody would think of as less big, they just want to be seen and heard, which is being valued as a human with a story and a message. So that's perfect. So your friendship with Pete Escovedo and the Escovedo and the Escovedo family is something I know is very special to you. And they are amazing and loving and talented. And as you know, I am also so grateful for the massive blessing of knowing them, first through you and then being able to work with them. So tell me what their friendship and somebody as legendary as Pete Escovedo has meant to you.
Well, when I first started playing after getting introduced to Mongo and going back to him, I was so nervous when I met him. I remember the bass player telling me, hey, have you talked to Mongo? You met him? I go, no. He goes, come on back and meet him. And I'm like, oh, I could have passed out. I was so nervous. And I remember going back there and I started rambling off in Spanish about how I knew where he came from in the 40s and his whole history. And he looked at me kind of to the side and was like, is this guy real or what's going on? Because I was just so nervous, but then I got over that. But I think what that led to, I know it was so funny. But,
I can see you as nervous, Joey. You're so
I was so nervous, man. I was so nervous meeting him, but he was a great person, a good soul. But and then from there, you know, I already had, from there, people like, when Mongo's not in town, you got to see these two brothers. These guys are hot. These are the hot percussionists in the Bay Area. Actually, in the whole, you know, the world, not the world, but nationally as well. It was the Escovedo brothers. And my brother, who also was starting to learn how to play, says, they're playing at the Oakland Auditorium. You ought to go check these guys out. These two brothers, you know, they're innovators. So we go, but what ended up happening was when I played baseball when I was 8 years old, my coach, well, one of my coaches was Pete's older brother, was Manuel Escovedo. So when I went to the gig and we're all looking around to find seats, I see Coach. And I hit him, I go, Coach Escovedo, what are you doing here? And I go, hey, Coach, what are you doing here? And he's all, hey, what are you guys doing here? Because you remember us as kids. And I go, we came to see Pete. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, that's my brother. And then it put two and two together that that we had been connected since I was 8 years old. So, you know, after a while, you know, it was funny and we laughed about it. He took me back to meet me and my brother to meet Pete and Coke. And we just kind of stayed friends. But our friendship didn't really change. It changed. I mean, it changed after Mongo passed away. And Pete had seen me and my brother with Mongo, and he knew that we were close to him, and we hung out and pick him up from the airport, go have dinner with them. So Pete kind of already knew that. So after Mongo passed away, you know, I actually met his manager, and his manager also knew that I was associated with Mongo. And then he invited me to one of Pete's shows. And I knew Pete and I met him before, but we just never really connected. And then we did. We just started going. He started inviting me to some of his gigs, and he asked me, hey, if you want, you know, we can ride in together. And I would ride in with him. But then with him, it was amazing because another person that has never said, you know, on the drums, Joey, you should do this, or you should do that. With him, like Mongo, you know, he shared a lot about music off the stage. So it was a lot off the stage that I learned from him, you know, how to conduct a band, how to feature other people, but just a lot of little things. He shared stories with me, and he also became a mentor for me. So I was very fortunate because here I am meeting Mongo, a legend, and then him passed away, and then I get dropped into another legend, Pete. And actually, Mongo gave Pete his first break. When Mongo had an album, one of his albums, he put Pete on his album. So he kind of brought Pete into the whole music world because Mongo's much older than Pete. So he's the one, so there was a lot of respect for Mongo from Pete. So he knew, you know, but I've learned so much from them sitting down and talking to him. And I also recommend anybody who you meet, you know, musically and you come in contact with, I mean, it's always good to share, you know, because you learn so much.
We are family. I mean, we are, you know, we are family in that there really is no competition between us. There's plenty to go around for everybody. And when you approach it that way, no one's going to go hungry. There will be no starving artists. We'll all be fed through feeding one another our experience and our hope and our sharing our stories. and and sharing the stage. I mean, people love that. No one, when you shine from within you, there's no such thing as stealing the show, stealing the light.
Right.
It's called collaboration.
Yeah.
And, so we should use words like that, like you have been about, like we grow the pie, it becomes sweeter, and everybody gets a slice. And the knowledge we can get is just so, it's just beautiful. And then you introducing me to Peter Michael Escovedo, and then having how the synchronicities and the beautiful synchronicities of life leading to a lifelong dream of mine coming true, making my album Love. So I'm so grateful. And I just, so Joey and I met, I was actually walking out of a winery, and something told him, she sings. Does she sing? Because he saw me talking to the keyboard player, and they had started their set, and I just felt a tap, and I turned, and he's like, "Do you sing?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Call me. I use all kinds of singers." And I'm like, "Yes." So on the drive to the next destination, I emailed him, and I just was excited, and I'm always like, what does this mean? I've always wondered where life's taking me. And Joey, it took me right to my dream. So.
And you took me to mine.
Wow. No, I'm kidding. But on that note, I think you should share.
Didn't mean to razzle you there, but.
Okay. On that note, I think you should share in 20,000 words or less why you enjoy working with me.
Oh, no, that's a hard one to, no.
20,000 or less.
Well, I like you. I enjoy it because I know that one thing I can count on, a few things is that I can always count on you being there. But come rain or shine, and there's been times, that there were things going on, and maybe with your family life as far as, time constraints and all that, but you always made it a point to be there. And when you're there, you show up. It's not like, Joey, I need a half an hour to warm up, or, you hit the road banging.
Here's me always like, can I come up now? Okay, we're going to do 2 more songs.
Yeah, you are raring to go. I don't care.
Yes,
if you got a fever or whatever, you show up and you go. And I like that about you. And people pick up on that, your energy, because you have energy and the professionalism as well as the talent. But when we're working together, I never have to worry about, man, I hope I don't get a call from Angie saying, hey, I don't have my mic, or, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it on time. You're just there, and not only there presently, but you're there, but you're also there presently, ready to go. And that inspires us, because who else we have on the gig, they know if Angie's on the gig, be ready, because there's no warming up. We're going to go bang, bang, bang right off the top. So that's exciting for me. So that's not 1,000 words, but.
Okay, no, so I'm humbled by your generosity of kindness and your kind words. I was kind of kidding. I just was really leading into Joey T and Friends. So why you started that, and your hopes with Joey T and Friends, like what's your core purpose with Joey T and Friends?
Well, I think the reason why I put Joey T and Friends, the number one thing, there's 2 things to share with that. Number one, Mongo's last album was Mongo and Friends. So that's kind of why I went with that name.
Oh.
That's why I went with that name, in honor of him. That I do in honor of him. And all the years I've seen him play, and when we have done hot outdoor gigs, I have like a washcloth or whatever, towel, and it's red, and it's always red. And when I went and saw Mongo play, that he always had a red washcloth when he wiped the sweat off his face. So that's another thing that I do in tribute to him. And I don't think I've ever shared that with many people, but those are the 2 reasons why it's Joey T and Friends. And then also in honor of Mongo, as well as the washcloth, because he left a big impact with me. Some people will come into your lives and they're in there. you know?
I can see it. I can see it as you talk about him. It's like, it's pure admiration, appreciation, and love. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, you loved him. It's devastating to lose. I cried. I never even met Whitney Houston, and I cried when I knew she no longer was on the earth. So
and then, you know, and then, like I said, my background with being with different kinds of music, I think that's why I put friends, because I never wanted to limit it. And Mongo was like that too. He did stuff with Carole King, Sade. He also branched out with a lot of different people, which as well as with Pete. But I like doing crossover music. I mean, if I hear a country song or a reggae song or a rap song, whatever it is, and I can find a beat to it, I want to do it. I mean, there's been times, you know, you've brought stuff to me and I was like, let's do it, because I want to keep it open. So when I say friends, that word really to me also means that that's an openness to whatever music. I think Duke Ellington once said it, one of his quotes was, there's only two kinds of music in reality. There's good music and no music. So whatever it is, if you're making music, hey, I feel never limit yourself, you know?
Yeah, I love that. That's been something that with record labels, they want to define you and put you right there and you have to stay. And there's been some people who have gotten out of their box, but not many successfully. They did it for their own passion and for themselves, because they had to, you know, they wanted to expand, but they want
well, you know, Elvis started listening to went to a lot of the black churches when he started off. So even though his music has been rock and roll, the king of rock and roll, or, you know, the legendary Elvis, but he went to a lot of black Baptist churches when he first started out. He just loved the soul. He loved that feeling, and he was influenced by that. But then when he got to do his own thing and put his own signatures, you know, he did his thing, but he had that influence from something that you would never think of, you know? So you're right. It's great to have you know, open it up and just mix it in, you know, it's great. I mean, if he would have said, well, you know, that's not really my thing, and I don't go to black churches, and I'm white, and they're black, and I can't, I mean, who would have known what would have happened, you know? But he left himself open to that. He saw something in those churches singing gospel and those guys singing church songs that really inspired him, and it added to his signature.
Yeah, and that's what music should do. You should feel it.
Yeah.
It's like, you can hit every perfect note, but if you're not feeling it, it's just noise, right?
Right.
So, let's show the audience, shall we, what this Joey T and friend, your friend Angie, kind of look like. Joey, for being here with me today, and I look forward to being on stage with you soon, laughing, dancing, bringing joy to the world.
It's been too long.
It's been way too long.
Yeah.
A little bit. So how can people find out where you're playing or where you and I are playing next?
Well, my website is www.joeyt and Friends, and we actually have a show coming up in 2 weeks, I believe, in a cool place in Livermore called The Elevation on Friday the 31st. But it'll be on my website, and also other dates in October that you and me will be performing. So I look forward to that, and you guys come out and join us. You know, feel the vibe, feel the spirit, and feel us.
Yes, come out, dance, shake your booty, act a fool. See you soon.
You on fire, I'm on fire.